People in Broadway, they are up in arms over 22 huge telegraph poles that are being installed in their neighbourhood, saying basically they look monstrous and they don't need the ultra-fast internet speeds the poles would offer. One resident climbed onto a lorry containing the poles and staged a 4.5-hour protest before he agreed to climb out and was taken away in an ambulance. Let's ask a tech expert. We can bring in Matt Porter on this. Hello there, Matt. This company's trying to give them ultra-fast broadband. The residents say they don't want it. It all seems crazy. What's your thoughts?
This is all part of the ultra-fast fibre rollout that's happening in the UK at the moment. So the existing copper network that's been in place, we've had in place for the last 100 years, is being phased out because it's failing, it's out of date and it's expensive to maintain. And it's been replaced by fibre optic, which gives us enormously faster data connections. It's also phasing out the old telephone lines. So we won't be able to use our copper telephone lines in the next couple of years because they will be switched off. Something has to replace it. How they go about replacing it is a completely different argument, really.
Yeah.
And it does affect people and upset people as well. I mean, you see it when you drive down the road every day. So you see changes happening to give us faster data. And yes, I can completely understand why these people are getting annoyed, but it's something that's, I believe, government organised through Openreach, who are then issuing contracts to these companies to expand that network.
I mean, I'm sure, really, that most people would like, and at some point in the future, as technology develops, want to keep up with technology and have the ultra-fast broadband. But the real issue seems to be these poles. It's such a pretty place. I mean, are they right to be upset about the poles? You know, is there another way?
I think everyone has a right to be upset if their views are being disturbed, if they have somewhere where they lived and and it's renowned for having a beautiful view and having poles supposedly obstructing that. Then I'm sure they are have a right to be annoyed about it and to challenge it. There are other ways of transmitting data. There are obviously things like 5G, which present themselves with their own issues, really, because, again, they have to have towers put up somewhere, which people might consider to be unpleasant to look at as well. So the other option, I suppose, would be burrowing underground. But you have an issue there with the cost of doing that is enormous. The cost of putting up 25 wooden telegraph poles against having to dig up an entire street and put everything right afterwards. And I'm sure that would produce its own annoyances to people. So, yeah, it's obvious. I was quite surprised, to be fair. My parents, where they live, they've already got telegraph poles, wooden telegraph poles, and I thought that they would be having their roads dug up to have fibre put in. But in fact, what they did was they just replaced what was already there with fibre cable. So in their case, there's no difference. But to people that aren't used to it, then I can completely understand. There are other technologies, but all of them in some way are going to be producing unpleasant looking poles somewhere.
I mean, the village where we once lived, we as a village, somebody went around and kind of managed to get this kind of thing together where we all paid a certain amount and it got done without it becoming this kind of great big eyesore.
Yes, that's right. When I lived in Suffolk, which is very rural, for a number of years, and there were places there that literally didn't have any broadband or ultra-fast broadband planned by Openreach or those other companies.
That's it,
so they actually paid to have a fibre optic cable buried from a junction box outside of the village through a farmer's field into the town and distributed it that way. So there are ways of doing it. The issue really is the speed in which the broadband's delivered. Over fibre optic, it has to be fibre optic in order to take television pictures. So the plan is with a lot of TV channels that they'll stop being broadcast over our traditional aerials and they will be fed over our broadband network, and in order to get 4K or higher, 8K television pictures into our homes, then it needs that bandwidth,
Gotcha.
Yes, it is an issue.
Definitely that. Matt, thank you so very much indeed. So as you can see, it appears that, this is going to go on and on. That's tech expert Matt Porter. As technology advances, we require that faster fibre broadband, but it's how it's put up. And if you have these great big poles put up, I can kind of understand the point that you don't want to see it. But equally, if you want faster broadband, there are ways, as we mentioned there in our village a while ago now. We got the private kind of thing going together and we all put money. It wasn't that much as well. When the village and the area is big enough, if everybody contributes and gets on board, then together you can kind of make that happen. But Sheila's been in touch. She said, regarding telegraph poles, this has been going on around the area and country for months. Here in Droitwich, there has been outrage. These poles are being put up by companies without having to get planning permission as a cheap way of putting in full fibre broadband, making an easy buck for the companies. In Droitwich, councillors and the local MP have been involved, but the relentless eyesore poles with their spider wires are still going up. The fibre could go underground, but this would cost more money, which the companies involved don't want. It's like being told you can go to a super state-of-the-art ModCon hotel, but to get there, you have to go on a stagecoach. Well, there's quite an analogy there. Thank you, Sheila. I think you've just kind of said everything there that Matt suggested, that this all does come down to cost, that it could be done in another way. But ultimately, if it's being rolled out, they're going to do it in the cheapest and most kind of quick way that they can. Unless, of course, you can get a kind of private arrangement going on, as happened in a village where I used to live. Thank you very much indeed, Sheila, for getting in touch. It's good to hear from you.